I believe that every athlete should have access to an athletic trainer. We know that the national stats do not indicate that being the case. The Atlas Project says that only 37% of public high schools employ a full-time athletic trainer, and approximately 70% of those high schools, public schools, have an athletic trainer at all. In private schools, it's actually even worse. We are at 28% who employ a full-time athletic trainer and 58% who have some sort of access. So one of the things that I believe is that athletic training is very important for our athletes, and having access to one helps to start the healthcare process when an injury does occur. One of the things that the National Athletic Trainers Association is very specific about is using the title athletic trainer, because when people just call us trainers, there may be the misunderstanding that we are personal trainers rather than athletic trainers. The big difference is they work in fitness. They may have no educational background whatsoever. Whereas athletic trainers, we have a minimum of a bachelor's degree. 70-some% of us have a master's degree or higher. In 49 states and Washington, D.C., athletic trainers are regulated in some way. It's important that we differentiate between the two and discuss what the athletic trainer does as a healthcare provider and a regulated healthcare provider in, again, 49 states. Athletic training consists of a wide range of requirements, from the prevention of injury, on-field injuries, immediate treatment, rehabilitation, and reconditioning to get those athletes back onto the field of play. Having an athletic trainer on site so that you have a medical provider who is evaluating the kid, and we can diagnose or clinically diagnose a concussion on the field or in the athletic training room, and then provide the instructions for the parents so that the parents do know when it is appropriate to go to the ER, or when it's appropriate to see their pediatrician, a concussion specialist, a sports medicine doctor, a neurologist, or whoever that next step provider may be. A concussed individual may not know that they're concussed. We have to rely on our other kids. Their teammates are going to see a problem, and they need to report that problem. That's one way we can reverse that trend. And additionally, we have to continue to work with the individuals and help them understand the severity of the injury. I actually had an athlete in the athletic training room about 3 weeks ago who had a concussion in January, and I had another one who was doing her return to play protocol in June. And he told her that hiding it was not a good idea because he had done so, and it delayed that process. And I think having that firsthand experience may help kids understand the severity of the concussion. The idea would be recommended that we have an athletic trainer at all sporting events. And should states mandate it? I would say yes. You're not going to start a baseball game without an umpire. You're not going to start a basketball game without a referee or a timekeeper. Why are those positions so important but the medical provider is not? That's the question I pose to the state. I understand budget concerns are significant. Being the son of public school teachers who are both now retired, I understand budget problems. However, I contend if you can't afford an athletic trainer, I have to question whether you can afford athletics. Concussions happen in just about every sport. The number of concussions we see in our other sports like volleyball, baseball, and softball actually outrank our football concussions. We also know that cheerleading is a dangerous sport. Cheerleading accounts for 65% of all catastrophic injuries in the female high school athlete, most of those being head and neck related. We believe that baseline testing is important before the season because we want to be able to compare that kid to that kid. At our school, we do mandate baseline testing for all of our athletes. We actually recommend it for every single one of our incoming freshmen, whether they're going to be an athlete or not. We utilize Impact both from an academic standpoint and an athletic standpoint in our concussion protocol. And so we like all of our kids to have a baseline test. We had an incident a few years ago We had 2 different cases where they had quit their sport, but we had a baseline from them as a freshman. They suffered a concussion as a senior, and we were still able to utilize that data. It may be a little bit old, but any data is better than no data. And so we encourage all of our kids to get a baseline. We require it of our athletes. We utilize Impact with all of our kids. It's part of our protocol. And we've had multiple cases where the kid may feel pretty good and think that they're ready to go. But Impact isn't at that point yet, where they've not gotten back to their baseline, or in some cases anywhere close to their baseline. And so when that happens, we're able to keep them out of academics first. And everything I do from a concussion standpoint, we got to talk academics before we ever talk about athletics. And so if they're not back academically, we're not ready for athletics. And I also find that Impact is great because a kid will lie to me, and he will lie to the doctor, and he will lie to the parents. And I probably should be using the she version here because females tend to lie to me more. But the athlete will lie to us, but they won't lie to the computer when it comes to symptoms. I haven't figured out why that is. I just have seen it multiple times. They may tell Impact a little bit more than what they're going to tell me because they see it right there in front of them. And they realize, you know, I've been feeling that, but I didn't really think it was a concussion symptom or didn't think it was related. But I'm taking a concussion test and there's that symptom right there, so it must be related, so I'm going to answer it. Typically, Impact is used, again, in our return to play protocol, but also in our return to learn protocol in the academic side. And so them going back to any type of return to play progression prior to being back to baseline on Impact does not happen very often in our protocol. Typically, they have to be back to baseline or relatively close. Our doctor will sometimes allow them to start the return to play progression with maybe 1 red area out of the 4 sections. They might allow with 1 red area to start the return to play progression. They are not released fully for athletics until they are back to baseline in that process. Impact testing can help our students and parents understand concussions in that they have to understand it's part of our process. It's not a diagnostic tool. Impact is very specific about that. We are very specific about that. It's one of our pieces to the puzzle, along with our doctor's evaluation, along with our evaluation, and along with the return to play process and the progression, again, both academically and back to sport. We have to understand we have to meet certain criteria, and impact testing is one of those criteria that we have to meet before we return fully to activities. We like impact testing because it's an objective test that we are able to utilize in a very subjective condition. Okay? We can have 2 individuals take the same exact hit and they may have completely different symptoms. One may have no symptoms whatsoever, the other has 6 out of 6 symptoms, 22 symptoms, they may have 15 of them, whatever the case may be. Impact helps us pull all that subjectivity out of it. It's one objective piece we are able to check off to bring us back to how we heal from a concussion standpoint. We think that Impact is a valuable tool to what we utilize in our concussion protocol. We need to have something in place, some way of objectively measuring our recovery process in concussions. And Impact provides that to us in a relatively easy fashion. And I work closely with our school nurse, our assistant principal for academics, and our guidance counselors. The other thing I tell our parents is we have to look at this as a 3-step process. Number 1, we have to worry about the kids' health. We have to get them healthy first. Number 2 is academics. Okay? Again, we have to get them back in the classroom. They are student athletes. They're high school students. They're not making money for being an athlete. Their money is going to come from the academic side of things when they go off to college and get a real job. And then somewhere down the line, athletics is going to be brought back into the picture, but we can't skip 1 and 2 in order to get to 3. Well, I like to talk about sports medicine in general as a team event, just like football is, just like baseball is. Every member of the team has their role. Concussion management is the same way. The athletic trainer is the one who tends to deal with the day-to-day aspects of concussion management, along with, again, with our school nurse. But our team doctor has to run the show from a medical perspective. And fortunately here in Texas, state law for us, and what is like in many states with concussion laws, is that they have to have physician approval before they return to play. That's an important part from a concussion standpoint. It's also an important part from a liability standpoint. So at Bishop Lynch, our school nurse and our athletic training staff work closely together. We work very, very well together. Our kids try to pull it that they'll tell the school nurse one thing and try to tell the athletic trainer something different. What I tell them very quickly is we've already talked. In many cases, we communicate on a regular basis. And while we are considered separate departments within the school structure, we might as well be one unit, and that's our healthcare unit. And we work closely together in many capacities. From a return to learn standpoint, we send everything inside of the building to the school nurse. So once that kid is allowed to return to school and is in the classroom and may have an issue with a movie, let's say, and the lights start to bother them and they need a break, we send them to the school nurse, not out to the athletic training room. But again, we work very closely with her on a day-to-day basis in concussion management and just general student health issues. We work with our parents very closely in concussion management. We want them to have an open door to us. I hope that they deal with this one time and one time only. I deal with this all day, every day. So it may be new to the parents. It's not new to us. It's not new to our teachers. It's not new to our administration. We have protocols in place to manage this. It's very stressful for parents. It's very stressful for kids. Sometimes it's very stressful for us keeping up. But we deal with this every day. We are the experts, as close to experts as you can come in a given day-to-day process with this. And then if we can't handle it, we refer it out to our doctors, to the neurologists, to our neuropsychologists, and other individuals like that who can. But we want the parents to have an open door. We want them to communicate with us if there's an issue. When we talk about a concussion protocol, we talk about a return to learn protocol being a progression from doing absolutely nothing and not even in school, all the way back to taking all tests, being in all classes and doing everything to their full ability academically. Then we talk about our return to play protocol, which again starts at ground zero doing absolutely nothing, and it progressively builds up to full activity, whether that be volleyball, whether that be cheerleading, whether that be football, whatever their particular sport may be. We have to go from step 0 to step 6 before they can do everything that they want to do.